Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise.
Hello, welcome back. Trekkie Dave here. So this is episode 28, and the topic today, with the Oscar nominations coming out tomorrow, I thought it would be kind of cool to give you my top 10 favorite films of 2021. And I think there's probably only a couple that could actually be in the Oscars, which doesn't really matter because usually my Oscar picks wouldn't coincide with what the Academy does generally. Occasionally there's an exception, but generally the films I like don't get nominated for Academy Awards. So anyways, as a topic, I'm going to do a top 10, but there's two tiers to this, okay? My first three films on this list are films that have made my top 50 films of all time list, my iconic list. So there's a top tier, which is those three films, and then the remainder 10 would be second tier. None of them are considered iconic by me, but I enjoyed the films. So it is a top 10 list, but I'm going to emphasize mostly those top three and why I think those films are exceptional, iconic, and why I believe those films will stand the test of time and be around 100 years from now. Okay, so I think I'll just begin by discussing those top three, and then I'll go in to give you the remainder of the list. Okay, I think that makes the most sense with this. Okay, number one on my list and number two on my list were very close to each other. Like they kind of ran over the finish line, kind of equal, but there were some elements in the first one that just pushed it over a little bit from the other one, okay? So first off, I'll just give you my top three. And again, these films have all made my top 50 list of all time. So other films were moved out for these ones to move in. And to have three films, just so you know, that's not normal for me. 2021 was a weird year, like with the COVID and the pandemic and not being able to go to the movie theater at the beginning of the year. And then of course, finding out about my cancer and everything. I didn't go to a lot of movies in the theater this year. So this year in the theater, I went to The Eternals twice. I went to Black Widow. I went to Shang-Chi. I went to Spider-Man. No Way, what was it called? The new Spider-Man movie. No Way Out, or whatever the heck it was called. I actually didn't enjoy that film, but that's maybe another list. I'm not going to go into that. I think it's one of the most overrated films in history, which I love Marvel, but for me, Marvel, with their films, they're essential films. They just never nail it for me. Like, I was disappointed by Endgame. I did not think Endgame was a good film. And honestly, the new Spider-Man film, I was extremely disappointed by it. I do not think it's a good film. I had major narrative issues with it. It to me is one of the worst fan service films I've ever seen. I wouldn't call it atrocious because generally I love Marvel, but my expectations were high. And just bringing those actors back is not enough. You need to do something with it. And the death of Aunt May, seriously, Peter, you're saving the villains and it cost you your aunt's life. I don't understand the film at all and what it was trying to say. But anyways, that's not what this video is about. So here's my top three for the year. And all of these films are exceptional and iconic. Number one, Dune. Okay, Denis Villeneuve's Dune. Number 2, The Eternals, Marvel's The Eternals. Number 3, Zack Snyder's Justice League. So let me begin at the beginning with Dune and tell you why it's my favorite film of the year. And I just wrote a bunch of stuff down, so I'll just give you my take on it, okay? First off, if any of you saw my Eternals review, you know that what I loved about that film is that it was an epic sci-fi film that we don't get very often, epic in scope. These films come once a decade. That's what Dune is. And the fact that we got 2 of them, Dune and the Eternals, in the same year is unbelievable. And Dune, actually, I just saw it recently. I think it's, as you guys know, as I've spoken about on the channel, I had that major setback where I had to go in for surgery. And I had wanted to see Dune prior to that, and I had planned to see it. And then that happened, where I almost died, and I was stuck in the hospital for over 2 weeks. So I just saw Dune recently, and watching it the first time, we ordered it on Telus on demand, and we had it for 2 days. Seeing it for the first time, absolutely blew me away. It's by far my favorite film of the year. Well, I shouldn't say by far, because The Eternals is close, and so is Justice League. But this film is incredible, epic in scope. Frank Herbert's book, I read back when I was a teenager in high school. And to me, there's similarities between this new version of Dune and Lord of the Rings. I felt a similar thing when I was watching Dune, where when I went to Lord of the Rings for the first time, The Fellowship of the Ring, which I saw in the theater, but that was before COVID and obviously before I was sick. That was, 30 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever it was. But that was a book that I didn't think you could translate into a movie, and Peter Jackson did it. And that was kind of what I thought with Dune. I honestly didn't think, I enjoyed the David Lynch 1984 film as an artistic endeavor, but it wasn't a good interpretation. There was major issues with that film. From an artistic standpoint, I thought Lynch did some really interesting things, but it was not a, what's the word I would use? It was not a perfect version by any means. I would call Denis Villeneuve's version perfect. Just like Lord of the Rings, he kept in what needed to be in there, but he streamlined it and he emphasized certain things, just like Peter Jackson did. Peter Jackson took out tons of stuff in The Fellowship of the Rings, and it made it a better film. He streamlined the story to be about the Eye, Sauron, and all of that, and it worked as an adaptation, and that's what I feel Denis did with Dune. Okay, so first off, let me just read a few things here. So I just put down, it reminds me of Lord of the Rings. I put down Oscars, hopefully. In my opinion, it's the best film of the year. This film, like The Eternals, has deep thematic themes that I really appreciated. The themes that I see in this film, and those are the films I enjoy the most, especially with science fiction films. But the themes that I see, first off, leadership, the character of Paul, and his father, who's played by Oscar Isaac, and Lady Jessica, his mother. I love how all 3 characters are handled, and there's something specific about the Paul character that I want to touch upon that I don't even remember being a part of the book, but I'm sure it's in there. The book is so dense. There's so much going on in it, But there is a scene in this film that I found so provocative and so I'm wanting to see part two. And of course, I'm not going to be able to. But I know that the director, Denis Villeneuve, is going to be able to do something pretty incredible going forward with this, with part two and so forth. But I'll talk about that scene later. But leadership is a huge, deep thematic component of this film. Paul finding his place within this universe. This film is about power and violence. The whole betrayal, how the emperor betrays his house because he sees them as a threat to his power. All of that I thought was so well done. Also, themes in this film are free will and fate. I love that with Paul's visions and whether they're accurate or not, because we see visions that contradict one another that I found very, very interesting, and it's consistent with the book, okay? Another thing that I found very interesting in the movie is the Oscar Isaac, the father character, and how he tells Paul that they were able to conquer their planet by sea power. And he sees a similar thing with the planet the Emperor has given them, but it's not sea power. On this planet, it's desert power. Just ideas like that. It shows a deeper understanding of how power structures work, because you know what? That's exactly how the world works. Why did the British Empire conquer the world? They conquered it because of sea power, because they had sea power, the Royal Navy. It's the same kind of idea, and I just loved that those ideas were emphasized in this movie. Okay, so those are the themes I see. Something else I loved in the film was the Jason Momoa character of Duncan. I thought he was really well portrayed in the film, and his relationship with Paul, how he has a mentoring relationship with him, how he loves Paul, and as a son really, or as a brother. And then when Paul has his vision of Duncan dying, just all of that. I loved it. I was emotionally connected to it. I was emotionally touched by it, and emotionally touched by Oscar Isaac's death. And he's a good man. The part where you can understand why people want to follow him. The part where the giant worms are attacking the crawler, and he says he doesn't care about the crawler and the money he's going to lose by it being destroyed. He wants those men out of there. He wants those men saved. The human lives matter more than the value. Just little things like that added so much to the film. I thought they were amazing. And the whole Lady Jessica thing as well. I thought the actress really portrayed the kindness of the mother, how she, as a Beta Zenerin or whatever, as part of that religious order, as she has a responsibility to them. But at the end of the day, her responsibility is to her family, to her husband, and to her son. And I love the way all of that was handled. Another thing, the music, Hans Zimmer. The music is awesome in this film. Another thing, the visual effects in this film are seamless. Not once in the entire film did I think I was watching a visual effect. It's seamless. It's grounded in reality. And I love the fact that the book and the film take place thousands of years in our future, and it felt that way. It felt grounded in history and reality, but a world that we've never seen. I loved the way all of that was handled. I thought it was just terrific. But the scene I wanted to quickly talk about that I found so provocative, and I don't remember this from the book, But there is a scene in this film where Paul has a vision, and we know his visions are not accurate. They are could be's, but they're not like for sure's, if that makes sense. If you've seen the film, you know what I mean. But they're not for sure's. They're just possible visions. And his holy war vision, where he sees a possible future where he has conquered the universe. Paul and the House Atreides has conquered the known universe and defeated the Emperor. And you see Paul fighting he's kind of has a gold suit on, and you see the Zendaya character with him, and they're kind of overseeing this empire, and he's basically saying to his mother that he's had a vision of a holy war. It kind of presents him and Zendaya as the villains in the piece, this holy war. I found that to be a very provocative scene and a very interesting scene. And anyways, I'm going to try to find that scene and put a snippet of it on here, because to me it was the most interesting scene in the entire film. I loved it. And it just, again, I found it to be provocative. Okay, so that's Dune and why I love Dune. Okay?
It's coming. I see a holy war spreading across the universe like unquenchable fire. A warrior religion that waves the Atreides banner in my father's name. Fanatical legions worshipping at the shrine of my father's skull. A war in my name! Everyone shouting my name!
The next film on my list, as we discussed, is The Eternals. Okay, and The Eternals is a very close second here for me, but Dune to me is just exceptional. It's a science fiction masterpiece. Okay, but The Eternals also to me is a science fiction masterpiece. And also it's so different from any film in the Marvel universe or films like we usually get. So the themes that I see first off, The Eternals is directed by Chloe Zhao. The music, which I loved in this film as well, just like Dune with Hans Zimmer. But the music is by Ramin Djawadi, and I think he does an amazing job in it. And like I said, it's unlike any Marvel film. Now, I've already done a review on this film, so I'm going to keep this one pretty quick. I don't see the point in going over the entire thing with you again, because if you check out my Marvel top 10, it's number 1. And I discuss the film in depth. So I'll just quickly go over some of what I love so much about this film. First off, its deeper themes. I loved it. The scope of this film. This film is about, and I said this on my review before, but it's about morality, theology, which I love any movie that touches upon theology, and mortality, okay? It has a diverse cast, adult content, a Marvel film that challenges the viewer. And in my opinion, Marvel is big enough to explore this content and have films like this that are bigger than, Captain America and Iron Man and so forth. I love that Marvel went here, and in my opinion, they succeeded. But one of the big themes in this film that I love so much, and also the cast in this as well, Angelina Jolie, Salma Hayek, I just loved this film, okay? But one of the big themes that I really love that they explored is humanity worth saving? Because that's the morality part of the deeper themes in this. Do the Eternals go against what their predetermination is And do they save humanity? Is Earth worth saving? And I'll put a snippet of that scene in this because that to me is at the core of what this film is about.
To sacrifice a celestial for the people of this planet. I will spare them, but your memories will show if they are worthy to live. And I will return for judgment.
Okay, number 3. Zack Snyder's Justice League. To me, Justice League is a pure comic book epic. It's a once-in-a-lifetime film. It's unlike anything we have ever received before, and it's something that I think we'll never see again. Well, I know I'll never see it again, but it is a standout film. It's something special and something I think that was presented in a very original and unique way. I just love this film. A couple of things I just wanted to discuss in this film. I'm just going to cut this off for a quick second and come back to discuss Zack Snyder's Justice League, okay? Sorry, I'm just feeling a little bit off here. Okay, welcome back to the channel. Sorry about that. So I'm just going to finish my little bit here on Zack Snyder's Justice League, and then I'll discuss the rest of the top 10. So I'm just going to, because I've already discussed Justice League, like I did the Eternals. With Justice League, it was on my top 10 DCEU films, and it was number 1. So I've already gone in depth about it. But there's just a couple of things I want to comment on. And then also I want to just give you a scene that I think kind of surmises what I love about this film. And I'll show that scene as a snippet. Okay? I loved in this film the whole Superman Christ resurrection theme. I thought that was really well done, him returning from death. I loved how the Snyder Cut made Steppenwolf a complex villain compared to the Whedon Cut. I thought that was really well done. I like the way the film treats the audience like adults. This film doesn't tell us, it shows us. And I love films that do that. They don't tell us what to think. They show us and let us decide. They basically treat the audience like an adult. And I love that in this film. Also, compared to the Whedon Cut, I love the way the character of the Flash and Cyborg were handled. And how those scenes were taken out of the Whedon Cut, I do not understand. The Flash basically saving the day by turning back time to defeat the enemies and give them a second chance after they've been defeated. The Justice League was defeated by the villains. I thought that was brilliant. Also, the whole Cyborg and how his character is expanded in the Snyder Cut. The I am not broken. I thought that theme, and it was so well done. I loved it. But the scene that I'm going to show and the scene I want to talk about, that to me just encompasses everything that I love about the Snyder Cut. And again, how did Whedon edit this scene out of this film? because this scene being in this film changes everything. And it's my favorite scene in the film. It's the scene where the Flash's future wife, Ezra, has her collision with the truck, and he basically saves her. As I've discussed before with iconic films and the elements that make up an iconic film, which are image, sound, and story, this scene is a perfect example of that. And it's a perfect example of why I love Zack Snyder's filmmaking, because he does a masterful job of all three of these elements. The use of music, the visuals. It's such an artistic scene. It's so beautifully done. It's masterful. And also, I love the whole idea of time stopping, because there's that old cliche, and again, he doesn't tell us, Snyder shows us, but the whole idea that when you meet the love of your life, time stands still. I love that.
Long afloat on shipless oceans, I did all my best to smile, till your singing eyes and fingers drew me loving to your isle. Did I dream you dreamed about me? Were you here when I was forced out? Now my foolish boat is leaning, broken love load on your rocks. Here I am, waiting to hold you.
So that's basically it for the Snyder Cut. I think it's incredible. And that scene with its use of music, its use of visuals, to me it kind of encompasses everything that's iconic about this film in one scene. Okay? So I'm quickly just going to give you the rest of my top 10 real quick here. Okay? I'm not going to dwell too long on this. I don't think I need to. Number 4, a film that I've discussed with you guys in my Marvel top 10. But number 4 for me was Black Widow. It was directed by Kate Shortland. I loved that this film was a continuation of the Russo brothers' films, in my opinion. That would be Captain America and the Winter Soldier, Civil War, and Infinity War. Love this film. Number 5 would be James Gunn's Suicide Squad. I love the unpredictable nature of this film. And I've discussed that film on the DCEU top 10. But things that I loved about that film were the Peacemaker characters and Ratcatcher 2, and just the unpredictable nature of that film. I thought it was exceptional. Number 6 on my list is The Green Knight. That was directed by David Lowery. I love the whole King Arthur quest. It's a visually stunning film. It challenges the viewer. It basically decodes and unravels a timeless tale, the whole King Arthur legend. I've always been interested in King Arthur from when I was a small child. And it's a modern take on it, but it's just such a unique film. Okay. This would be my number 7. It's a film that we actually just saw a couple of days ago on demand. We didn't see this in the theater, but I absolutely love this movie, Ghostbusters Afterlife. This film was directed by Jason Reitman. Hello, baby. Come here. And here's my cat coming to say hello. But it's directed by Jason Reitman with the help of his father, who directed the original, which is kind of interesting. I've never heard of such a thing, but it's kind of cool. Just looking at Rotten Tomatoes, this film got kind of bashed by the critics quite a bit for being too nostalgic or too much fan service. I completely disagree with that assessment by the critics. Once again, the mainstream critics don't know what they're talking about. To me, in my opinion, Ghostbusters Afterlife was a perfect combination of new and old. I loved what they did with it. I thought the fan service was perfect, and it was so well realized. And a standout for me with that film was the little girl. I don't know the actress's name. I thought all the cast was great in this film, but I thought her uncovering the mystery of what her grandfather had done and just everything, it just worked. And my entire family, so myself, my wife, and both my boys, we watched it together and we all loved it. It was a standout movie to me. Exceptional. Loved it. Okay, number 8 for me, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Rings. It was directed by Destin Daniel Cretton. To me, a standout in that film was the bus scene. The bus scene alone is worth admission into this film. It is so well done. And something else that I found interesting about this film that I really liked was the relationship between the Aquafina character and Shang-Chi. I love the whole thing with them being, what are they called again, Julie? They park cars.
Oh, valets.
Yeah, they're valet parkers and stuff. I love the whole intro and the end where they're talking to their friend and they're explaining what's really going on. And of course she doesn't believe them because it's such a wild story and stuff. I just thought all of the character moments between those characters were so well done. Okay, number 9 for me was the film Don't Look Up. It was directed by Adam McKay. It had Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence. This is a full-on satire, political satire, that we do not get very often. And when my wife and I, we were actually in the hospital when I was stuck there for that 2 weeks, and we watched that film on my phone, or on my wife's phone, and I didn't know what the film was about at the beginning. But the whole idea of a comet's about to hit the Earth, but obviously the film is making a satire connection between what's going on right now, or at least this is how my wife and I interpreted it, but what's going on right now with the anti-vaxxer movement, and how even though all this medical evidence proves that vaccines are safe and all this stuff, the whole idea that in this film, because Don't Look Up is an actual political movement in this film, where even though you can see the comet in the sky and it's about to hit the Earth, there's a political movement telling their people, don't look up in the sky, even though the evidence is literally in the sky above them. So what I put here, this is a satire of the easily conned, anti-vaxxer Trump crowd of misinformation and blatant stupidity that we are currently going through. Because there are people that don't believe that the pandemic exists, that it's a political thing. How you make a global pandemic political is beyond me, and shows the sheer stupidity of Trumpism. It makes me sick. So I love that this film makes fun of those people and their blatant stupidity. And hopefully we get through this soon, because Trumpism is a scourge on the world. Okay, the last film that I want to mention, number 10 on my list, and this is kind of a personal favorite because I've spoken to friends of mine that didn't like this film. I thought it was terrific, but from a pure popcorn entertainment way. And the film was called The Tomorrow War. It starred Chris Pratt, and it was directed by Chris McKay. It's a science fiction time travel film. I thought the aliens were really well realized in this film, and that it was a fun flick. I just love that film. And that's it. That's my top 10 list. And again, the films that all are iconic to me. Number 1, Dune. Number 2, Eternals. Number 3, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Okay, so that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Those were my favorite films of 2021. So Trekkie Dave off. God bless all of you. Hope you enjoyed the video. And if you haven't seen any of those films, I'd recommend all of them. And that's it. So Trekkie Dave off. God bless you and take care. And I'll see you next time for episode 29.